gosh, y'all look so good this morning. I love y'all giving the spring, minus allergies vibes. I'm extending my hand to those of you with the allergies. Good morning. Wow, I just realized I just got here, no notes. I'm just up here talking to y'all. Let me just pull them up. My name is Amina Brown. I am the chapter host and team lead for Creative Mornings Atlanta. Good morning to you. Yes. I am so excited to see y'all. First of all, how many people it's your first time ever at, wow, come on, first time, gorgeous. Yes, we love to see y'all. Okay, I have 1,000 things I'm trying to tell y'all. First of all, you might be like, what is this? Like, what is this actually? Okay, so Creative Mornings is a global initiative. There are over 200 chapters of us globally. Our Atlanta chapter has been around for 13 years. It'll be 14 years for us this year. Okay, so what this means is around the world, 200 cities are putting on an event just like ours for their creative community. And we're all working along the same theme. So here in London, in Chicago, in Sao Paulo, we are all doing Crossroads this month. So I'll tell you a little bit more about our chapter, but we do 10 free events for Atlanta's creative community where you're getting free food every single time. So aren't you excited? I mean, you can hardly get anything free in Atlanta these days. Okay, let me tell you everything. Okay, I told you these things. I said these things. First of all, I want you to know this is a volunteer-led initiative. Okay, I'm leading a team of over 25 volunteers. If you're on my volunteer team, will you raise a hand so that people can see you? Okay, so I am not doing these events alone. I am doing these events with a rock star team of volunteers. And speaking of volunteers, you too can be a volunteer, okay? I'm talking about you, okay? If you're like, I love graphic design, I love planning events, I love thinking about details, we want to talk to you, okay? Come see me, come see any of our team members. I will also say this, we are looking for some day of volunteers as well. So if you're like, listen, the way my schedule's set up, I really can't be doing all those other things. But I can come the day of and greet some people. I can come the day of and move a chair instead of a taco. We want you to, okay? So please come and see me afterwards about that. Speaking of taco and coffees, can we just give a big shout out to Dancing? Big shout out to Dancing Goats by Caldies. They are our coffee sponsor all year long. So every time we have a morning event, you will get to have free Dancing Goats. So give it up for them. So they Also, I want to draw your attention to Alejo Puras is over here. Alejo, will you stand up so people can see you? So Alejo is going to be doing, let me make sure, because Alejo, you told it to me, and then I might get there's a technical term. Alejo is going to be doing live visual notes over here, okay? So you can watch Alejo as the event is going on. But if you would like to follow Alejo, you can go to Alejo Porras Art. That is ALEJOPORRAS. Alejo Porras Art. You can go see Alejo afterwards because the street's saying that he has free stickers to give you. Okay. We get so much free stuff this morning. I just don't know what to do. You know the other way you can engage with Alejo? You can book him for a fee. You see that? So if you're having an event and you're like, oh man, that's so cool. I'd love to have Alejo. You can for a fee. So just remember that part that I said. Alejo, thank you so much. Y'all can check him out more in a little bit. Okay, also big shout out to Little Ray for our fantastic breakfast talk. Yes. I know everybody doesn't bacon, but those of you that do, that bacon is awesome. Because sometimes you don't just want a strip of bacon, you want just like chock full of bacon, and I really appreciated that this morning, because I love to have swine on special occasions. Okay, this month's theme is Crossroads, and I do want to let it be known that I tried to get the team to let me play Bone Thugs and Harmony here, and they said not everybody wants to hear that song. And they said it's too on the nose. And some of you are literally here like, why are you talking about Bone Thugs and Harmony today? And you can go to your Spotify and find out. You can put in Bone Thugs and Harmony and Crossroads and just have a good day, okay? Because we all miss our Uncle Charles, okay? Everybody here misses our Uncle Charles, okay? That's fine. It's a team effort, so I have to listen to them. Each month we are exploring a theme, and Crossroads is an excellent theme. When we think about creative work, creative endeavors, we are always experiencing crossroads in one way or another. Some of us experience that in our work lives, right? The creative things we want to do, the limits that may be placed upon us, right? Some of us may have been doing one creative thing, and we get to a crossroads and we need to decide, are we going to do a different creative thing? So I want you to think about the ways that crossroads actually play a role in your creative work as well. Think about that. Also listen to Bone Thugs and Harmony. I said what I said. Okay, I told you about Creative Mornings. We talked about that. Let's talk about our video partner. Greg Harding is over here to this side. Give it up for Greg Harding. Greg Harding is our video partner all year long. So every time we have a morning event, we do actually film these events and put the videos up on our site. So if you ever miss an event, you can always go back to there and catch up on things. You know how else you can engage with Greg. You can book Greg. For a fee. For a fee. Look at that. If you're like, man, I would love to have some video content. I would love to shoot a little mini documentary. My company needs somebody to do some film work. You too can work with Greg for a fee. Okay? I can't tell you the fee, but Greg can tell you. It's not free. Okay, so let's go on. I want to give a big, huge thank you to Oakland Cemetery. Yes. Y'all were scared a little bit, weren't you? You were like, ooh, because we going in the cemetery. You know, some of y'all seen cemeteries. Go ahead. Go directly to the cemetery. Listen, Oakland Cemetery has been such a wonderful partner to us, and you are just experiencing one aspect of what you can experience when you are here on the grounds, okay? You're in the new visitor center for Oakland Cemetery right now. You can also host events. Yes. You want to have a party here? You want to have a corporate gathering? Oakland wants to host you for a fee. Here's a couple other things I want to tell you. Oakland Cemetery normally is open until 5 p.m. every day. But starting tonight and through this weekend, there are night events that will be happening here called Illuminate. Okay? So those of you that QR code, some of you are like, I don't do that. You just go to Oakland Cemetery. Okay. But you can use this QR code. This is how you get your tickets, because you can experience Oakland during the day for free, but at night, over this weekend, there are going to be visual arts, interactive activations, live music. Experience Oakland. This is an amazing, amazing place in our city. So you can come to there, but look, we're going to help you be down with a discount. Are you prepared?
All right.
Okay, listen. Your discount code is CM, like Charles, Mary. CM discount, okay? You can get $5 off 2 adult tickets. You can get $5 off 2 VIP tickets to Illumin. You can also use this code for $5 off a membership to Oakland Cemetery, and that will get you more discounts. I'm trying to help you. Help me help you. Get your tickets to Illumin. Also want to highlight that one of our volunteer team members, Vanna Black, is one of the visual artists that will be featured at Illumin this weekend. So come and support. Thank you. Tell the people to clap. Amazing. Also, if you were like, oh my gosh, I've lived here however long and I have never been to Oakland, there is a tour at 10:30 today. Some of y'all really don't want to go back to your job, okay? And you told them you were doing something that was going to equip you, right? You told them you're at a workshop. Okay, so look, when you leave here, you're going to go downstairs. You go into the gift shop. First of all, go in the gift shop. See the Oakland things in there. Participate. But while you're in there, if you hate a QR code, you can buy tickets to Illumin down there, okay? You can get your membership going down there. You can buy tickets to the 10:30 tour where somebody will guide you and walk you through the cemetery if you're scared. You don't have to be scared, okay? The residents there, they'll stay where they are. They're not going anywhere. I mean, I was thinking what she was thinking most times. We can talk about that. I'll talk about that after screening for sinners. Anyway, you can tour Oakland and learn about some of this amazing history. There's a lot of history in Oakland Cemetery. So there is a guided tour at 10:30 today. You can pay for your tickets down in the gift shop. You can tour for what? A fee. It's not even an expensive fee. Y'all give it up one more time for Oakland Cemetery. Okay, team, I didn't miss anything yet, right? I'm clocking in. Okay, nobody's booing. Great. All right. Each time we do these events, we have what's called an onstage spotlight. Before we get into our speaker, sometimes that's a game. Sometimes it's 30-second pitches, and sometimes it is a performance. And I am really, really excited and honored to have one of our greatest poets in this city, one of our greatest writers, and also my very good friend. Y'all welcome to the stage, Abra Lee.
Wow. There are not any among us who have not been, at one point or another, a puppet or a robot or a dummy seated on the lap of some ventriloquist. We have all, for one reason or another, felt since we have had to maneuver this life, ill-equipped and yet to still exist, that the best course of action was to simply fall in line. I'm going to be honest, that may have served us for a time, but alas, that time has passed. And it is the difference between being measured or manipulated, disciplined or indoctrinated, controlled or calculated. So, when life looms Geppetto-like, I am inviting you, all of my fellow Pinocchios, to learn to do your own thing, to operate with no strings, to listen to your spirit and adjust the pitch control to that song your soul sings. Force the audience to get with it, you, all ungoverned and uninhibited. Listen, if they are telling you that you are being extra, it might mean that they ain't enough. And that this life is taxidermy, baby, where you have always been made of the right stuff. Independent and free, life is give and take, as you know. So this year, if we must take something, by all means, let us take control. How are we doing? We doing all right? That's great. That is great. As Amina said, my name is Abra Lee. I'm a poet, I'm a writer. I'm a songwriter. I write poem songs. I'll write a ransom note if you need it, whatever you need. I got you, you know what I mean? I'm 4 feet. Y'all know vibes. So yeah, she also mentioned Sinners. I don't know if anybody saw the film or whatever, it's a great film. We're not being paid to promote it or anything like that, but it's interesting when I was thinking about this idea of Crossroads and the opportunity to speak about this. It made me think about that film a little bit because it's based in like 1930s Clarksville, Mississippi. And while I've never been to Clarksville, Mississippi, or I've not been to, basically all I'm saying is that that film has a loose connection to the legend of Robert Johnson, famed blues musician who found himself making a pact with the devil to trade his soul on behalf of like musical mastery and prowess. And it said that he met the devil at the crossroads. And so that stuck out to me, this idea of like, coming to a place where while I have not made a pact with the devil, I have driven at the 75-85 connector. And I've certainly sworn to higher and lower beings at that time. I've also found myself at 5 Point Station as well. I've done that as well too. And it's fascinating because thankfully this work that I do has got me to travel around the country, around the world sometimes. But I love coming back to Atlanta, and I actually love to ride public transportation. And I do that because not just because Marta is what? There we go. Y'all know the bars. Y'all got it. I love to do that though because it keeps you kind of in tune with the community. Honestly, like we can be such a car-centric, city that it's really helpful to be sometimes among people. And when you ride public transportation and MARTA with any level of regularity, you start to notice people's routines. You start to see people. Now these are fully fledged human beings living their own life, but as a writer, they start to become characters to some degree to me, right? Because you see people and you notice like, oh, this person's arriving or going to work. This person is getting off work. This is a bunch of students on their way to class. Here's someone going to get groceries, whatever the case may be. And it stuck out to me because as I rode the train one time, I saw this young man who, I don't know how old he must have been, not much older than it seemed like my young nephew, but he was dressed in Air Force, or he was dressed in military gear. And he was traveling on his way to report for duty somewhere. And it got me thinking again about another person by the name of Aaron Bushnell. I'm not sure if anyone knows this man, but February of 2024, Aaron Bushnell was a 25-year-old serviceman, Air Force serviceman, and he found himself at a crossroads in which this thing that he had been doing his entire life, this thing he was committed to, the military, armed forces, all of that, he saw what was happening around the world. Particularly, he saw the eradication of lives in Gaza. And he said, I did not want to be a part of this anymore. And he made a decision. He lived in DC. He made a decision that he decided to go down to the Israeli embassy, and he actually, in a form of extreme protest, self-immolated, set himself on fire. Now, regardless of what we think about that protest, I thought it was fascinating that here you had someone who thought he was one thing, believed he was one thing, and then decided to make a decision to kind of protest that and become something different. And I think what's kind of instructive in that is that all of us find ourselves at these crossroads throughout life. That the thing that we are does not mean we have to stay that thing. We can become something different. And so I'm going to do a new piece that I've not really done that often, but I feel very close to y'all. I feel like I can put you down as my emergency contact and something like that. But I'm going to do this piece, and this piece is called Rail Cars. It's a piece about Aaron in his life. It's a piece about MARTA. It's a piece about me, and maybe you might find a little bit about you in it as well. Rail Cars. I watched a man set himself on fire today. It was a Sunday. On Sundays, I like to take the train from Indian Creek to Hamilton Homes. Collier Heights used to be my home, so on the Blue Line, I like to take the time to sit and write poems looking at people as they enter and exit the rail car. There was a young woman with a purse, Telfar, followed by an older bag lady who hobbles on board, imbalanced as justice's scales are. And I keep thinking about the man who set himself ablaze, about what made him say, I cannot live another day in a world this cruel, in a world where 18,000 Gazan children should be in school, but instead they have been removed from the face of the earth, all because of an open air prison where their mothers happen to have given birth. I watched a man set himself on fire, and I watched a man set himself on fire, and I had questions, uncomfortable ones, like what took so long? The police saw the self-immolation taking place, and they approached with weapons drawn. And I can think of no better metaphor for this moment than the officer who shouted to the others, I do not need guns, I need a fire extinguisher. We have just passed Ashby, where the old man in black church socks sits and lingers, and I keep thinking, what does it mean when a protest has been deemed too extreme? Where you would rather be gasoline lit than viewed as complicit? When the world is moving in such a way that you no longer feel as though you fit? They say that it is a tragedy, and I do not disagree. But it is no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a profoundly sick society. I watched a man set himself on fire today wearing nothing but Air Force fatigues, and I keep thinking, what has this man seen that made him realize he no longer believes he is a killer? a weapon of mass destruction. We have just got to 5 Point Station and I can no longer hear the conductor's muffled instructions. And look, I do not know if you know that MARTA has partnered with the Georgia Department of Natural Resources to drop 2 decommissioned rail cars into the ocean. In order to combat coral reef erosion, in time, these rail cars will transform into essential fish habitats. And I do not know about you, but I find something in that so beautiful. That a stable home can be made out of something that was once movable. And that a transportation mode can now become an abode, and that something seemingly out of place, like a rail car in an ocean, can restore faith and balance and health. And that going off the rails might mean that you can become a home for someone else. Listen, Creative Morning, if no one's ever told you, I want you to consider this permission to become a new thing. To take that information that you have learned and emerge out of that cocoon with wings. They have tried unsuccessfully to stifle your song of reinvention. So from here on out, let us sing, let us sing, let us sing. Bring on the transformation and the repurposing. Because a baptism by fire or water can't be purging. After all, it is a Sunday, but then again, what do I know? I am just a poet in a rail car with a breeze card and a notebook full of poems. Thank you so much. I appreciate you. I would love to be every single one of you with us later after this and stuff more.
Very nice, very nice. Thank you, y'all. Y'all feeling good? You doing all right? All right. So I'm Shatay. I'm one of the volunteers on the morning team. And just one more time, can we give it up for Don B? We're going to move into a couple more announcements, and then we're going to get Miss Abra Lee up here for a wonderful conversation. Y'all come today. We got Abra Lee today. Okay, so like Amina was saying, our gracious host, we have these events once per month. Next month, we'll be doing creative after hours. How many of y'all have been to an after hours event with us? All right, we see some hands here, Bob. Yes. Who's our after hours volunteer team? Where are y'all? Can we give it up for them? Yes. All right. So the theme for next month is revival. We'll be hosting a dance movement workshop. Any movers in the house? I'm excited about that one. So we've got a workshop at Windmill Art Center facilitated by Immerse ATL. We'll have a very limited number of tickets, so make sure you're keeping an eye out for our newsletter and our socials so you can get more details on how to join us for that. So that's in May. And then moving on to our partners, there's a couple more shout outs before we move on to our conversation. We've got a partnership with Adobe as a global partner. So our partners make our events here in Atlanta possible. Global partners are the fuel that power us as a global organizations with Creative Mornings, and they ensure that we're able to continue to grow and thrive. So Adobe has joined us as a global partner because they recognize the impact that Creative Mornings is having on our global ecosystem of creativity. And so with Adobe support, Creative Mornings HQ is working on virtual field trips to help us level up our creative journey. Have any of you attended any of those virtual field trips before? I have too. We have some really great facilitators for those. So whether you're just stepping onto the creative path or taking a bold new turn, like we talked about in Crossroads, there's something for you. So we want to give a big shout out to Adobe for supporting the creative hearts and curious minds everywhere. Can we give it up for Adobe, please? All right, and then our final partner shout out, I think, is MPB. So MPB transforms the way that people buy, sell, and trade photo and video gear, like Olivina said, for a fee, right? And as the largest global platform for use photography and videography equipment, they're a destination for everyone. So whether you've just discovered your passion for visual storytelling or you're already a pro, they've really got some exciting opportunities for you. You can get easy cash by clearing your used camera and lenses from your closet. You can get a free quote if you like to either gear up or get paid. So spring into action and start selling and trading today, all right? Okay, now here's the good stuff. Dr. Abra Lee, you want to come on up here and join me, please? Yes? Let me give you your a proper introduction. Dr. Abra Lee is a storyteller. You're not, Abra Lee. I feel like I heard someone call you that and I just ran with it. I was like, yeah, it's Dr. Abra Lee. That makes sense. You do. Yes, you are a doctor. Okay. So Abra Lee, she's a storyteller and author of the forthcoming book, Conquer the Soil, Black America and the Untold Stories of Our Country's Gardeners, Farmers, and Growers. She spent a whole lot of time in the dirt, y'all, as a municipal arborist and airport landscape manager. Her work has been featured in the media, including the New York Times, NPR, USA Today, Fine Gardening, and Veranda Magazine. She's a graduate of the Auburn University College of Agriculture and an alumna, all right, shout out Auburn, an alumna of the Longwood Garden Society of Fellows, which is a global network of public horticulture professionals. Her current role is Director of Horticulture here at Oakland Cemetery. And Oakland, as we heard, it's a revered Victorian garden cemetery and vibrant park located in downtown Atlanta. Come on, about that. I was about to call you doctor again. It really, come on in. Okay, so we're gonna have a conversation, learn all about Abra's work and the significance of it, talk a little bit about the Crossroads and her career and here at Oakland and nature in general. So I'd love to start, if you could just tell us, let me grab my notes really quickly. My first thought for you. We've heard that Abra is a Black garden historian, and I had the pleasure of learning what that meant and having a conversation with her, but I'd love for you to tell us how you came about that work. Like, actually, what does that even mean?
Good morning, everyone. Thank y'all so much for being here today. I am a Black garden historian, and I started that work in around, I would say it was 2008. And what that means, I majored in ornamental horticulture at Auburn University, which means you're on the beauty and the pretty and the decorative side of plants. And I was 27 years old, 26 or 27 years old, when I was hired as landscape manager for Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport. So this must have been, I think it was 2007, 2006 or 2007. So at that time, I felt imposter syndrome, not because I was Black or because I was a woman. I was so young, I couldn't believe that I was 27 and in charge of the world's busiest airport, the beautification efforts there. And I was at my garden mentor's home, a gentleman named Brian Gainey, the late great Brian Gainey, a renowned garden designer who lived here. And my mom was there with me. And my mother, God rest her soul, she was a retired teacher with the Atlanta Public Schools. She taught Atlanta Public Schools for 40 years. And with that, Brian advised me to learn my garden history. Like if I wanted to be like him and be confident, he said, you just learn your garden history. And what I took that to mean was start with the Hanging Gardens of Babylon and just go forward from 1,000 years. And my mama said, no, baby, you gotta learn your garden history. What does that mean to be a little Black girl from the South first? My mom taught at Atlanta Public Schools, but she grew up in Lamar County in Barnesville, Georgia, dirt road country on a 27-acre farm right outside here that I went to up well into my 30s. And with that, one of her questions to me was, did I think that I was the first Black person that had been in horticulture and aviation and managed an airfield before? And I said, yeah. Everybody who does that, right? And she said to me, well, baby, who do you think took care of the airfield for the Tuskegee Airmen? Do you think it took care of itself, or do you think your people took care of it? And I said, I am not alone. Like I couldn't believe that she dropped that gem on me. So with that, that brought me into the world of Black garden history. If I can say one more thing about that sticker that you're holding, the blue one. So she took me to the Atlanta History Center, and this is old school when you're still on the, it's like the screen you just kind of reel through way back when. What was the microfiche? I knew it was a fish in there. I want to say microfiche. And the first story she introduced me to outside of the who would have done the Tuskegee Airfield was this gentleman. And his name is Charles William Costello. This was an Opportunity magazine in the 1940s. And he was an entomological artist for Ohio State University, a black man, an insect artist. And I was like, nothing ever told me you could be an insect artist for a living. And she just kept telling me story after story and teaching me how to research. And that is how I became a garden historian. I was like, I can't believe this is a whole thing. And that's I know it was a long answer, but that's how that happened. So my mom put me on to this game.
I love that. Mama while we're on the mama stories, right, and what you learned in that vein. So these stickers, there's a table here of things. It looks like, oh yes, y'all have picked them up. Good. So there's some things that you can take for yourself. But can you give us the story of this one? Can you grab that one for me?
Oh, sure. Yeah,
Give us another quick story of what the significance of these are, and then we'll move on to this booklet as well.
Sure. So this is so that picture is a real picture as well of Charles William Costello. This one, if you got the pink sticker, is a picture that an illustrator drew, A.L. Jackson, in Harper's Weekly, which I believe is still a publication, I think it's online, in June of 1870. And these are the black flower vendors, the black women on Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C. And the bottom says the flower sellers in the market at Washington, D.C. And honestly, this is a mobile nursery. And it's so beautiful, and you can see their decorations. And if you want the bigger picture, you just go to the Library of Congress and type in flower sellers. But that was another story that she introduced me to, and I just couldn't believe it.
Love it. So the last one, really quick for you.
Oh, yeah, okay. So this is an article I was fortunate to write for the Atlanta History Center, for the Cherokee Garden Library, which is a free library to go to. You just make an appointment. It is the largest garden library in the South. And the article I wrote, this is a few years ago, it's called Hidden in Plain Sight, The Lasting Legacy of Black Women in Garden Clubs of Virginia. So long story short, this week we celebrated Earth Day on April 22nd. And Earth Day started, I believe, April 22nd, 1970. But on April 22nd, 1932, 17 clubs and 4 people gathered at Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia, to launch what was then called the Negro Garden Club of Virginia. And that was an environmental movement. That's the term that we would use now. It's not just a garden club of these black women and men in the state of Virginia. Ethel Early Clark, who is here, that is the first president of the Negro Garden Club of Virginia. And these are people who registered people to vote. They had their own symposiums. They hosted their own classes. They held the municipalities accountable to fix potholes. So it was a really big deal, and they preceded Earth Day by 38 years on the same day. So these are the real Earth Day OGs.
I love that. So back to your story. Can you tell us about any crossroads in your career to becoming, the Black garden historian that you are today? Any crossroads that stand out to you?
There are, and I want to repeat what Adonna said. I thought it was so, thank you. Because I just look like I'm doing a lot. Adon said earlier, the thing that we are, we don't have to stay that thing. And I so appreciate your words, Adon. That was so beautiful. And the most major vivid crossroad for me was probably when I was in my 3rd year of Auburn, and maybe my 2nd year of horticulture. I ended up being on academic suspension, which means I failed out of Auburn, so I couldn't go back for 6 months. So I absolutely am not a doctor. That undergrad, no. But I say that because that was a crossroads for me. And you don't have to stay the thing that you become. And my mom and dad didn't make me feel any kind of way about it. And I remember thinking, like, I just never was an A student, but what it was, I didn't know Black garden history was a thing. I thought my choices was be a nurseryman, be a landscaper, or be a farmer, which are all fine choices, but I just couldn't find my thing or my place. And with that, I remember my mama telling me, all you gotta do is pass. And I just thought, it just felt like a weight was lifted. Like I was thinking, I have to get an A. She's like, just pass. And it wasn't because I was just, a stupid person or anything. It was just more so not understanding how to engage yourself. So that freed me because I failed so young and so hard. I didn't have to say that thing. And that really, I think, honestly set the tone for how I became a municipal arborist and airport landscape manager and a Longwood fellow and a director of horticulture, like all these really random, such a random horticulture journey that Auburn brings me back to this day, like every year to talk about this, because they couldn't have imagined it, and I certainly couldn't have either. So that would have been my biggest crossroad. And if I can say one more, this week would have been the second biggest crossroad of my life, and I'm glad that at least Gina was here to witness that. Oh, Cola, 2 people. So Cola be talking of WABE's Black in the Garden podcast. Gina, what's your official title of it? Or what do you?
Whatever. I'm the manager of digital services.
Okay, the manager of digital services at the Atlanta History Center. And we were all of us were invited, all 3 of us were invited to a tea party this week called Hats and Roses, which celebrated 80 Black women in history of preservation. And when I say 80 Black women, I mean everyone from people that are 94 years old to in their 20s, and they're up and coming doing their thing. And I was the keynote speaker. I was so blessed to be the keynote speaker for that. And I gave a talk essentially on Black women and their journey in ornamental horticulture from the Civil War moving forward. And at the end of that talk, I was stunned, and I'm so humble. I hope I'm not gonna cry, but if I do, it's happy tears. These Black women, they gave me a standing ovation. And so I grew up across the street from a golf course in Atlanta. I grew up playing golf. And it's almost if you can envision 40 people are in the PGA Tour, and then the other 40 are in the Hall of Fame, and they say, you got it. I couldn't believe that was a crossroads for me. And one of the women they introduced, and Cole and Gina witnesses, was a human computer. Her name is Isabel Reed. She did math by hand to launch the space shuttle program. So, in the movie, there's the 3 main characters. There's all other Black women. I was like, and she was at my table, and to have her be like, I want to take a picture with you. And now she texted me this week, and I'm like, you can't kill me.
I love it. Someone here said you earned it. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. So your book you have coming out, forthcoming book, Conquer the Soil. What does that mean? Yeah, what does it mean to conquer the soil?
Yeah, thank you for asking that. It has been a lot of work to work on that book, and I'm so happy. I am finishing up this year. I have a writing coach that's getting me through it. Praise God. So to conquer the soil, because I realized that just hearing it can sound triggering, or maybe it doesn't make sense. And so I'm in Black garden history. That's my world. Those 3 words are the words of Dr. W.E.B. Du Bois. And with that comes from one of the essays in his book, The Souls of Black Folks. I think it's written in 1915, which is a collection of essays on the fair critique of the United States in the Jim Crow era during that time. And he talked about 3 gifts that the former slaves who became African Americans brought to the United States of America through the Middle Passage. And one of the gifts he listed was the gift of story and song. So that would be Negro spirituals, our ability as a griot, a Don Bean, just the gift of story, the gift of spirit. So us just having this deep belief. And even at the History Center, I talked about in school, when you're formally trained in horticulture, they teach you the art and science. But what they leave out is the spirit of horticulture, like this unexplainable connection people have with the land. So there's 3 pillars to horticulture that they really don't talk about enough. But he talked about Black American spirit. And the 3rd gift he talked about was the gift of strength and brawn that the former slaves had. And that is the gift that he described as their ability to conquer the soil and build up the United States of America. And I'm paraphrasing his words. And so conquer the soil to me just really, I tell people it's not that I even am a Black garden historian for a living, that I really get to tell love stories for a living. I'm not unaware that many of these people may have been slaves. They were living in the Jim Crow era. I know the era that I'm living in, and I don't want people to reduce my now 25-year career in horticulture, which has been amazing, to the political time. So I really focus on their work, because I hope that's how I'm remembered one day for my work. So I think about it as being our ability to just do so many things, to be entomological artists, to be mobile flower vendors, to be nature writers and eco-poets in horticulture and gardening. And so that's what Conquer the Soil is to me, all the ways that we've conquered the soil.
When we talked before, I had the pleasure of learning more about your work, but you were talking about Oakland itself and how it's at the crossroads of the South and the city of Atlanta. And you had this really interesting thought about the trees having a born witness. Like the tree plants us have witness our lived experience. And that was just ooh, what does that mean? Can you unpack that for us?
Sure. When Shantae and I were talking, I was thinking about maybe about 3 weeks ago, I was given a tour to some women who were volunteering. They were in the African American section. And it was really the first time I think I even mentioned this at Oakland. And one of them said, "Oh, that's such a beautiful magnolia tree." And this is a magnolia tree that's easily 150 years old, easily. And when I said that out loud, I said, "Oh, this is what we call a witness tree." And that is a term, you can Google it. And I do want to say this because this book is not out yet, but there's a woman named Dr. Veranda Montgomery that is writing a book that's coming out called When Trees Testify. And it's about these witness trees that have witnessed these times in America. And just the words "when trees," I ain't never want to read a book so bad in my life. These trees that testify about. But when we think about Oakland, there are witness trees in the cemetery. And what I mean by that, Oakland is built in 1850, prior to the Civil War in Atlanta. And when Atlanta is burned to the ground during the Civil War, Oakland is not burned. And there's maybe the Swan House, maybe one or two other places. And Atlanta is not known for its historical preservation. So when I think about that magnolia in the historic African American section, or you think about these grand oaks in the original 6 acres right when you walk in, these trees have witnessed not only the burning of Atlanta, but the rise. They've witnessed the old, they've witnessed the new, they've witnessed the burial of Maynard Jackson. Arguably, Bang Joy and I, we were at an event at Live Nation maybe 2 months ago, and former Mayor Bill Campbell and Mayor Andy Young were there, and they talked about Maynard Jackson literally being arguably the greatest mayor in the United States of America ever. And I have to agree with that. And to think about these trees that they've witnessed, all of this is just incredible to me. And so even when history tries to be written or erased, there's always a witness there. Even if it's a tree looking over your shoulder. So somebody saw it, there was a spirit there to see it. So that's what a witness tree is.
Last question, and then we'll open it up to the floor if you all have some questions for Abra Lee, so prepare yourselves. Okay, last question is, what does nature have to teach us about navigating the crossroads in our lives?
Wow, so what does nature have to teach us about navigating the crossroads in our lives? I think for the first time in our lifetime, meaning everyone at this room, we're in a collective crossroads where maybe certain communities have been in crossroads, but literally everybody's at a crossroad right now. And I think what I appreciate about nature is that, I told you I was thinking about the Lauryn Hill song, "Everything is Everything." What is meant to be is be. After winter must come spring. Change, it comes eventually. And that is nature. After winter must come spring. Not will we get through, we must. So that is what I appreciate about nature. Time marches on. Nature marches on. Even after, when things are burned to the ground, there is a resurrection, and it does rise. And I'm not trying to not be conscious of the fact that those things take time, but there is evolution and there's change. So even when we're at some of the hardest crossroads, nature shows us that there is a path forward. So I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. So good. I think I want to just quote you in that conversation. You said, "There is a tomorrow." Just like you said, there is a tomorrow. It will come. Yeah.
And I will also say too, I sound overly optimistic, but I work in a cemetery, and you have to say there is a tomorrow. I must make the best of this day. I feel that deeply now. Christy, my colleague, we be feeling that, and it's not in a morbid or a sad way. It makes you come to work and say, I gotta make the best of this day. So I do want to say that about, I know I'm glossing over it, but the cemetery gets you together.
I love that. What questions do we have for Abra Lee? Any questions?
If you have a question, stand for us and project, and Shantae, if you repeat the question for Karen.
Will do. Don't be shy, y'all.
Hello. My
Hey,
name is
Ben.
Frank Joyner. It's like a setup question. But, can you give more context to, so you're a native, can you give more context to the time period of Atlanta that you grew up in as it juxtaposes to the Atlanta where you're currently working at home? So a little bit more on your background, school, just kind of how you came.
Okay, let me paraphrase for folks in the back who may not have heard. He asked, as a native of Atlanta, can she give more context to the Atlanta she grew up in, like back in the day, to the Atlanta she's working in now? Is this in the context of nature and things like that, or just in general, just the city itself?
Just the city itself.
The city itself.
Thank you for the question, Bane. So I am a native of Atlanta. I was born and raised in Southwest Atlanta. And I have a dual experience, meaning I feel 50% hardcore Atlanta until it goes down urban, and 50% dirt road country. Because my mom went from Barnesville. We went to the country on the weekend, like hogs, chickens, cow pasture, all that. So I feel equally Southern, and then I just can't deny my rural roots. I must acknowledge that. But the Atlanta I grew up in, I benefited from that in a real way, and I certainly benefited from the legacy of Mayor Jackson. What I didn't share when I was a child, my dad was director of parks for the city of Atlanta. And he was hired by, and I didn't even know I was gonna ever go into horticulture with that. So, and my dad's family, the Lees, have been in Atlanta proper since at least the 1880s. So, I mean that, but I'm not, my mom is a transplant to Atlanta, right? She comes from rural Georgia. And I understand, both worlds. I understand how when I was even hired as landscape manager at Atlanta's airport when I was 27 years old, that is a direct result of Black political power in Atlanta. It wasn't that I was the most qualified in the room. I couldn't have been. I was barely, I was in my mid-20s. What I was the hungriest in the room. And everybody in the room looked just like me. And they thought, why not? Why shouldn't we give you a shot? So it was kind of like the reverse Good Old Boys network of Auburn that I was a benefit of. And I'm not saying that as a negative. What I'm saying is that what I appreciate about learning that and contrasting to Atlanta, when I was in Auburn and witnessing and experiencing the College of Agriculture, that Good Old Boys network, what they will do is that they will take their young people and say, you know what? I know you're 22, but you deserve this leadership position. You mowed grass for a summer. We can teach you how to be vice president. Come on, brother. And that's kind of what happened to me. And I had internships. I had finished school. I had been an artist, but that is what I feel like old Atlanta gave was like, you got a chance. Like, matter of fact, I believe you can be at the top. Mayor Jackson gave my dad a chance. He knew him growing up and needed a director of parks he could trust. So he's like, I'm gonna give you this chance. And my dad went and took classes at the CAB to learn trees. He had a law degree, but you see what I mean? So I think that what I appreciate about old Atlanta is like that passing of the baton. Like I'm gonna pass this baton to you, and I know you might not be right here in this moment believe you can do this, but I'm gonna take care of you. I'm gonna surround you with the people that are gonna help you for the success. Where I feel like the Crossroads of Atlanta now, it's not a fight, it's just complex because it's gone from like baton passing to like, I'm gonna go for mine versus, and I'm not saying I'm not saying I don't want people to skip steps or gatekeep it. What I'm saying is that when you work collectively, that is what happens. And I didn't speak for the airport now, but when I was there, we built a floral clock. That was 5 Black women that built that floral clock with a team of Latino men and a gentleman from St. Louis. And we built an award-winning landscape program and floriculture program, and that allowed me to be hired as the landscape manager at Bush Airport in Houston, Texas. So it was almost just like a pipeline of, making sure that your success will be ensured and passed on. And right now, I don't know that we're working collectively enough to make sure that success is passed on as a city. And we must. I embrace old and new Atlanta, for sure.
Hey, Abra.
Hey, War Eagle with no.
War Eagle. So happy to see you, as always, so proud of you. Before I head out, one of the things I need everyone here to know is that Abra and I both attended Auburn. We're also local Atlanta, from Atlanta. Without her, I wouldn't have made Auburn. I wouldn't have survived. I'm a landscape architect and I failed every horticulture class I took. And one of the things, piggybacking off what you just said about the collaboration piece, one of the things that I've learned lately about people at the so-called top, people at so-called top, they don't compete, they collaborate. And old Atlanta for me was also that same thing, was this notion of, and you brought that reminder and regrounding for me when I was at Auburn, struggling trying to make it as well, in a building named after George Wallace. So you and I both had that shared experience. Can you talk a little bit about, because you are a historian, and a genius I might add in that respect, the power of, and you mentioned it a little bit, but the power of the collaborative spirit as survival for specifically Black women in the history of horticulture. I've been to your presentations, phenomenal, y'all. Y'all got, whenever Abra presents, you have to be there on the history of Black people in America, from the cherry trees to the sister that I think she sold roses to Strom Thurmond. Oh, that was big. That's a hard one to figure that out, right? But it's important to talk about at those kind of crossroads. But can you talk a little bit about, and I'm sure it's a big question in a short amount of time, the requirement for, at that time, Black women to not compete, but to collaborate and create this history of horticulture and missionist histories that are trying to be demolished today, that won't ever be demolished. But if you could touch a little bit on that, I would love for everyone to also hear more about that piece of it. I think that's critical into how we continue to promote the old Atlanta way of collaboration versus competition.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Thank you, Winona, for that question, and thank you for the work that you do as well. And I feel like, if you're okay, Cola, I'll use our example. Me meeting Cola B Talking, who has a wonderful, beautiful, wildly successful podcast now, Black in the Garden, on WABE. And we met maybe like 2021 or 2022. And that was first virtually. We hadn't we couldn't, everybody was coughing and sniffling and COVID. But I say that because I think about when you're talking about collaboration, these Black women. So the work that I do, I am very well aware, and when I give presentations, I will share words from, I think of this woman named Bessie Weaver, who was the first Black florist in Mississippi in 1915. She's speaking in front of a room of 700 other Black women at the National Negro Business League. And she is encouraging them to get into the business of flower farming, growing their own flowers and selling them. And she starts a floral school in Kansas City, Missouri. She knows she's training her competition, and that's okay, right? And I think about that because when I met Cola, and we met virtually, and I remember us having conversations of like how my journey started and like what was the way, and kind of, I would say, like breaking in, if you wanted to, success. And I remember saying, Cola, go to the American Public Gardens Association conference, because the decision makers are in the room. You're going to meet the president of Longwood Garden. You're going to meet Mary Pat Matheson, the CEO of Atlanta Botanical Garden, be able to walk right up to her. And what I love about what our ancestors teach us is that you basically say, no, this front seat is for you. Like, you sit here. You can just literally take people right to the top with you. There's no, like, I remember Cola, she said this word, she was like, am I out here capping or what? You're not here. I said, Cola, no, there are other Black women that came before you who wrote garden columns and were garden media before you. So you can be autodidactic, you can be self-taught. I talked about my mom on the farm, and yes, I went to Auburn. I have a formal education. I feel like it makes people comfortable when they have a formal education in gardening, but the OGs are my grandparents and great-grandparents that started the farm. I ain't never gonna out agriculture and garden them, and I know that, right? And that's very freeing. So with that, I think that we have to say to people, especially people now, like, I will introduce you to the decision maker. I remember telling her, what you have, these stories you tell, you need to talk to the vice presidents of education at these public gardens at this conference, because you're making their job easier. They don't want to have to think of what program to teach. You walk up to them and say, this is what I do, this is what I teach. Let me send you a sheet on that, and they're gonna hire you. And so it really can be that simple to just put people on. And I can give one more example if I have time. When I was a municipal arborist working for the city of Atlanta in City Hall East, I remember there was a security guard, DeJuan was his name, and he would always be like, why you and this other guy always coming in with these tree branches? And he was a security guard in the building. We always going up the hallway. DeJuan was younger than us. I was like 25 at the time. He's probably 22. I was like, well, I'm an arborist, and we go to tree inspections, and we just all over Atlanta. So he would talk to me, and he was interested in, basically having a job with insurance. I was like, well, the tree trimmers for the city of Atlanta are having a job there, and just give them my name. And he did, and he was like, Abra Lee, the arborists recommended. He was hired as a tree trimmer for the city of Atlanta. So it's just so easy. We make like it's so difficult to bring people right up to the front door or put them on. It's not. And that's what I appreciate about the collaborative spirit of our ancestors and the collaborative spirit of the tone that Mayor Jackson said. It really is that easy to be like, I got you. It ain't hard. It's free.
Yeah.
Can folks approach you afterwards, or I'll be able to? Yeah. So I'm going to say honorary Dr. Abra Lee. Can we get